Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Amazon Seller News Live. I appreciate you joining us today. I got Andrew Morgans from over at Marknology with us today. So, Andrew, appreciate you joining us.
Todd, thanks for having me back. I'm excited to be on the news show today and talk about what's the latest and greatest.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to it. We've got some good news today. Danon isn't going to be able to join us today. He's got lots of stuff going on, but me and Andrew are going to hold it down. So we're going to be talking about some Prime Day news here, and then a big one coming out of Washington with a new tax that's going to affect Amazon sellers big time. Some changes to Amazon Prime that allows sellers to edit their orders after the fact, which is cool. And then if we have time, we're going to get into some opinion pieces on whether Amazon is rubbish now or not. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the first article here. So Amazon's October Prime Day underwhelms shoppers, signaling caution for holiday 2025. Amazon's October Prime Big Deal Day fell short compared to July's record-breaking event, with shoppers mainly buying everyday essentials like apparel, shoes, and household goods, rather than splurging on big holiday purchases. Average order sizes dropped 15% from July, and satisfaction levels slipped as buyers compared deals with Walmart and Target. Economic pressures such as tariffs, inflation, and rising living costs drove cautious spending, with fewer shoppers using the sale to jumpstart holiday shopping. For Amazon sellers, this signals that Q4 promotions may face softer demand, requiring sharper pricing strategies, better value positioning, and stronger differentiation to capture cautious consumers. So I'm curious, Andrew, that last section there was, kind of opinion on their part. So I'm curious your thoughts as to why Prime Big Deals days might have been slower and smaller cart sizes than July.
Yeah, I think Todd, thanks for laying that out there. I think that this article is right on, if I'm being honest. I know it's a bit of opinion, but I feel I could have written it myself. In regards to like how I feel about how they laid it out. I don't know if you've been to the grocery store lately, but I think it's one of the easiest places to really feel the inflation and the economy and where it's at. Like,
Okay.
I think I ordered 2 pizzas the other day and it was almost $100, Pizza Hut. Like, so, something that used to feel like it cost 30 or 40 bucks, So I think you're feeling inflation all the way down to food. It's not just gas prices. It's not just one thing or the other. It feels like it's in every area of life. Even if you're skipping the restaurants, like you're feeling at the grocery store. And I say that simply because that's regardless of it being Amazon or not. Like, got a lot of friends and, we're very like transparent and open about just economy and how things are going and budgets. And, it's tight on everybody, especially people with fixed incomes. So, I think those, something else to think is those like those wish list buys, those premium buys, those luxury buys. Those shoppers are not so deal motivated in the first place. I just don't think that they're as deal motivated. The people that are going to buy that thing they've been holding on in the cart, or that premium item they've been waiting to buy. You also have the hold up of, this Prime Day almost came and went without like a ton of press. It felt like, to me anyway, like with a kind of a late announcement, right? And I think people are just waiting. I've told my girlfriend, my fam, like, we do Christmas big. Like, it's coming from a poor family. It's just always been a special time for us. I don't think gifts are for everybody, but for us, we go kind of hard around Christmas time for each other. And, just that had a conversation already as kind of the leader of my house to guys, let's take it easy or start buying early. I don't want people to feel the pressure of the holidays with just how things have been. So, and that's someone that's a savvy buyer, So, I mean, I did purchase stuff on the Prime Day deals. I was buying essentials. I was buying stuff I already needed and just grabbing those deals. Like I did spend more, like maybe out of order, like, buying some stuff in bulk that had some good deals. But it wasn't like I'm there to see what type of electronics are out or like, what kind of clothing item I could purchase. It was definitely essentials. I don't know if you spend any money on Prime Day, but that's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I did, and I mostly agree with everything you said there. I bought a few things on Prime Day. I'm just looking. Uh, I bought some shelves for the garage that I had already been looking at previously. They were on sale a little bit. I bought some Ring cameras because they were like $39.99 for for the ones that you can
Yeah.
move around and stuff. So that was just such an amazing deal.
Did
I
you
had to
already did
grab
you
it.
already know you wanted some cameras or
Yes.
okay, or was it like spontaneous?
No, I knew I needed them. So we have a retail storefront for one of our other businesses, and I needed to get cameras for it. So I was just kind of waiting for
Like,
for the big sale. And so I grabbed those, grabbed a microwave as well. But that's for the business
so
also. So I
yeah,
needed
so
it
business,
anyways.
business expense, right? Not luxury
Yeah,
expenses. I would say.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, nothing really luxury except for maybe the garage shelving. You could, I mean, but it was only $73. So it wasn't super
Yeah,
crazy.
organizational, I wouldn't really put in like luxury or premium. Not saying it wasn't
Yeah.
nice stuff, just like it's not like, it's that category, I wouldn't say.
Yeah. No,
Um,
definitely not. So yeah, I agree that I think the economy is definitely struggling right now. It's very mixed, right? Because the job numbers, well, they got revised down, but they're still not coming in too bad. And inflation is looking okay, the jobs numbers. But one stat that I noticed that stood out recently is that credit card debt is like almost at an all-time high, but
mm,
credit card usage is way down. So that's kind of a scary metric, I think, that kind of signals that people are maybe
maxing
running
out.
out of money to spend and they just can't spend anymore on their credit cards, so they're stopping. So that could definitely show a problem for coming into Q4.
Yeah, I think people are
Um,
employed. It's just, I think like people have jobs, people are employed, but everything is just costing more.
yeah,
Everything is
for
costing
sure.
more across the board. Tariffs are not. I think some companies have taken advantage of the ability to say, "Hey, everyone else is raising prices. Like, let's do that as well." It just is permeating down to
Mhm,
everything. Even to back to school wasn't that long ago. Was it September is back to school?
mhm.
Or maybe August. It's been a minute since I've been in school. But
Yeah, yeah,
October
August.
coming right after that. So it's right before the holidays, right after school starts. And kind of, I've always thought of Amazon, some of the articles subjective in that it's comparing it to a record breaking July.
Mhm,
So compared to that record
true.
breaking, it's true to say that it came in underwhelming. Okay. If you're always trying to beat the last number, but they're also picking the dates of the year to run Prime Day deals when it is the slowest historically.
Yeah.
So it is not already like a big time to shop, like a Labor Day deal, and they're running a Prime Day deal at the same time. They are running it like in times of year, July being super slow, October being right in between school and holiday, and trying to find some lift in these like slow times. So
Mhm,
one is just kind of like, if you're running trying to tell me um how well a coupon does or a deal does on Amazon, like in a normal period of time, and you're only giving me your worst products, it's not a true test of like whether the coupon or the deal works, in my opinion.
mhm,
It's like, if we do it on your hero ASIN, the data is going to be a lot more true. We're running it on a product that's selling well, and now we're running, the deal to see what happens to customer lifetime value or subscribe and save numbers or whatever it might be. So similar to this is like sometimes I feel like running these prime days in the low season of purchasing behavior already is kind of
mhm.
already setting yourself up for failure. And I saw something else a little bit off topic, but I think there's a female rock artist named Halsey. I don't know if you know of her, and
No, I haven't heard of her.
she's been out a while. She dropped an album, and I think like had 200,000. I'm quoting numbers. Like, don't hold me to it, but like 200,000 like downloads in the first week, or like purchases, album purchases.
Yep.
And her label was just calling it a failure. And she's like, "What are
Mhm.
you talking about? Like 200,000 in the first week in a time period where no one's buying albums and CDs and everything is streamed? Like, that's an
Mhm.
incredible launch." But they're holding it against like a previous record that was just like, maybe best in the country ever. And she's putting it as like, when you set the benchmark so high, then anything that comes in under that is underwhelming and
Yeah.
considered a failure. So I think it really just comes down to like how you're seeing it and what you expected to get out of it. And understanding, sure, all the elements we talked about, like the nation and economy and periods of time, but also as a brand, what were your expectations going in?
Mhm.
And what are we comparing it against to say whether it's good or not?
Yeah, and the news cycle plays a big role in people's buying habits. And so I wonder how much of this is, you know, buy all your stuff before the tariff pricings kick in. So everybody bought everything in July. And so they already got a lot of the stuff that maybe they would have bought now, that they bought early for the fear of tariff price increases. And so, how much of that plays into it? How much plays into that we're right in the middle of a government shutdown at the moment? Those kind of fears could.
Those don't raise confidence, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a large percentage of the workforce. I something like between 10 and 20%, I believe, of the country is employed by the government in some way. So how much could that have had an effect as well? All these things kind of adding together, and then also people saying, "Hey, maybe I'll just wait till Black Friday. There might be a better deal,"
At
kind
the
of
very
thing as
least, it's
well.
creating doubt. It's creating, it's like a retail store playing the wrong music or having the wrong color scheme or anything else. And I think everything
Mhm.
around business and commerce is about trust, and like whether it's the products or the environment that they're in or the store that they're in or the brand that they're engaging with, whether it's
Yeah.
Amazon or other. And any negative move in the other direction has impact. I really do think
Yeah.
it at some level it has impact. Like, same thing as being an agency owner. Sure, we run 40, 50 brands, like, so we're an Amazon seller of brand in that way, but I'm also an agency that works directly with brands to make partnerships. And I think on that front, uh while we've had a good year, I wouldn't say we've had a bad year. We've had a good year. There's still a sentiment of just like what's happening in the world, like,
Mhm.
with tariffs. And if you're not an expert already, it can be overwhelming to add in all these other things you don't know before you
Yeah.
take the leap into something. So I would agree. And lastly is like, at least for me, at the age I'm at and the place I'm at, like after when October starts, like it's less about buying stuff for me that I want, and I just start thinking about holidays. And like,
Mhm.
I just kind of put myself after summer, like, I don't know, it's this like subconscious thing to be like, I'm not buying for myself really now, and I'm just thinking of of gifts, or at least saving budget or whatever to start buying for others, whether it's my
Yeah.
girlfriend or my mom or whatever. So the even though I'm a purchaser, now I'm purchasing less for Drew and I'm purchasing for other people. So my categories change also, like
Yeah.
the things that I'm buying change.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting how that happens as you get older. If somebody asks you like, "What do you want for your birthday?" I'm like, "I I don't nothing. I don't I have
Yeah.
no idea. I don't need
Theater, or
anything."
like, let's go to the movies, or like, something like more like entertaining, or an event based, type of thing. I
Yeah,
think that you get more quality of time. But
yeah, for
um,
sure.
I've got nieces and nephews and little cousins, and we have a big family. So instead of being like stressed, I guess where it's at, like, I think the budgeting is like really coming into everyone's mind. If they had a loose budget, just the budgets are getting tighter. And if I'm budgeting, then I'm like, how do I start offsetting holiday spending now so it's not such a big lift come Black Friday and
Mhm.
Cyber Monday, where it's just all hitting me in one month. So
Yeah,
maybe it's just
yeah,
starting a
for
bit
sure.
early. Um, we have Halloween around the corner too, which for some families is a big expense too. Like if they're just buying costumes and doing the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom was like that. She would buy Christmas presents all year long. Like if you looked in her closet, it'd just be like filled with toys, when we were younger, which always made Christmas a lot of fun because
Yeah, because I don't know how they afforded it unless they did that because like,
yeah,
my mom definitely went above and beyond to make Christmas as big for us. So it sounds like we had similar moms in that regard,
yeah,
just putting stuff away. Um and like stuff was took longer and harder to procure and get and things like that. It wasn't always 2 day shipping everywhere, to get the next best thing. So yeah, I think we'll see. I think in general, just I think it's just category shifts of what's selling because
mhm,
people are still buying. It's just like it's other people are getting lifts because they happen to sell something that's more essential or something that's more
mhm.
everyday or something that's more practical. And the premium buyers are staying the same. There's just not a lift. So
Yeah.
they're still buying what they want.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely seems to be the shift right now for sure is towards the practical everyday stuff. People are kind of cutting out the fancy things that they don't necessarily need and focusing on what they really want or really need, I should say.
I would
And
agree.
so it'll be interesting to see if that's if that's just like a culture shift that's happening, because the millennials are basically the big demographic now, and we'll have to see. They grew up spent in the 2008 time frame after the crash and stuff was a large part of their life cycle, and that was an era of cutting back and saving, so they've kind of got that mentality a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see if it's here to stay or if it's just a factor in the economy right now and everybody's just waiting for the crash. I think the crash has been coming for like 15 years now, so
Since '08, right? Or close to
yeah,
it. So
exactly.
I mean, I think it feels like that, or at least we're traumatized a little bit to be like, we're feeling similar triggers and, it
Yep.
feels close. And I think that hesitation, I mean, it's smart. The credit card stuff is scary,
Mhm.
the credit card stuff is scary, but I know that it's true. And I mean, just talking to my friends who don't own businesses. So they're, a lot of them are fixed income, they have good jobs, but they're fixed income.
Yep.
So costs go up, their income doesn't rise with it a lot of times, even if they're employed. And just talking about maybe being like having to be the most frugal that they've been in a very long time since they were, we're all approaching 40 or mid 30s.
Yep.
And maybe for the first time, they're having to be like pretty frugal. It feels like this year, which is like there hasn't been enough big things to make it feel like that. But I just feel like it's all a lot of these things all adding up.
Yeah, compounding. It's
Yeah.
like you were saying, you can't go to any fast food restaurant anymore and get out of there for under like 40, $50. It's just
And that's
crazy.
where the food is where I can really tell the increased costs.
Yep, for sure.
Like specifically when I'm like at the grocery store or getting food. It's just like, wow, you can't get out of there without really spending
Yep.
quite a bit. Yeah, so we'll see. I know it's hard to say like, okay, that's why Prime Day is affected, but I do believe that. I just believe it's compounding.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. So before we move on to the next article, Andrew, is there any certain tips that you're giving your clients to prepare for Prime or not Prime Day, but Black Friday and the Christmas shopping season that's coming up?
Yeah, I think it's just expectation setting, understanding that it's not just Amazon in a silo. Like, Amazon is just a business channel. The economy and everything else impacts what we're doing. So set expectations, to that end. Um, I think if you have a product that's outside of, um, gift giving or like essentials, you need to kind of think about maybe accepting smaller margins, but to give more incentive for people to make that purchase.
Hmm.
And that might be an expectation that you need to set. So be more aggressive with your deals if you're able to do that, if you have margin for that, to be able to get people to overcome that reasoning. If you're doing content and storytelling really well, you could be selling ice cubes in a snowstorm or whatever they say. and still get away with it. If your content is like doing really good and doing its job, right, you're creating that FOMO effect. You're creating that like, I need this to solve this pain point. But
Mhm.
a lot of sellers and brands aren't doing that. So, I bring that up because it's like, to me, those are the products that can sell through whatever's happening, is if they do just a really good job with their offer. But just thinking about like, okay, if I'm taking a step back, I'm not just thinking Amazon tactical, and I'm thinking strategy. What's going on in the world? What's my competition doing? What have they been doing? Have I tried already certain things already this year? What were those results? Like, should I just double down on that, or should I really try to go another direction? Because one move is to not discount and protect your margin and just have smaller revenue, but really protect that margin, kind of like you're
Mhm.
just budgeting, and you're going to sell what you're going to sell, without thinking about deal. I think
Yeah.
that's always an option, and people seem to forget that there's no reason to offer 5 or 10% off when those customers are going to buy from you anyway, and just give up that margin
Mhm.
just to give it up. So,
Yep.
really put yourself in the seat, or in the shoes of your customer, and be like, would this 5% or this 10% make me buy it if I wasn't going to buy it? No.
Mhm.
So if that's the case, then maybe don't discount it at all and just look like the premium offer. There's a lot of brands that don't ever discount. You don't ever see discounts. So that's an option for you too. I would just say, don't do what you've always done. Take a look at what experience you have already this year, and then adapt to that.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. Yeah, and you mentioned something there. You're talking about discounting, and a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, we had an article that talked about doing discounts versus coupons, and that discounts were, in their measurements, much more effective in increasing conversions, clicks and conversions than coupons.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that? Have you seen anything around that?
Um, I think with the coupons, by default, they're set up to not get as good of data because you have to actually clip them.
Hmm.
And so a customer will see it, click to buy. Maybe they add some more stuff to cart. They don't actually hit the coupon button, and the coupon got them into the listing, but they didn't claim it.
Yeah.
So I think by default, because it doesn't auto claim, that some of the clicks and conversions are going to be misleading. Versus the slash pricing or the deal is automatically applied every single time. And so I think by default, you're going to get more attribution and clicks than that. Other
Hmm.
than that, um, I'm not sold one way or another. I've heard the argument both ways. Like, I think the more the better. Like, you're just trying to stand out. You're trying to look different in search results than everybody else, whether it's your main image or a coupon or a deal slash, or whatever that is. So I think there's a rhyme and reason to any of them at any given
Hmm.
time, based on what's everybody else doing, and can I do something different than what they're doing. Um,
Yeah, yeah. My first thought was that, okay, so the discount is winning over the coupon, but what if I did, instead of a $10 discount, I did a $5 discount and a $5 coupon? I'm wondering how that would stack up. And that's something I want to test, which I haven't gotten around to yet. But that was my first thought. Why not stack them both and take advantage of that?
Yeah, so here's like a little one that's not in our news, but Amazon released a new feature around business pricing. Okay. So if you do, I think it's like a certain number of units, right? Past one, of course. So it's like a tiered pricing discount, that
Hmm.
Amazon is taking the money off of your FBA fees. And I can't quote it exactly, so we might have to pull it up. But essentially, it's the first time I've ever seen where Amazon's giving a discount because you offer a discount. But
Yes.
if you have a product that works well on the business side, it's incentivizing you to give them a better deal and then getting a break for it. So that's a place where you could like give more of a deal in order to get some back, if you're being like
Hmm.
really strategic and have an item like that. Um, Obviously, this only applies to consumables, but I love the subscribe and save offer, and they've recently just increased the amount that you can offer. I think up to 20%.
Oh,
Uh,
really? I didn't see that. Very
I
good.
think you just increase a few, like 5% or something, all the way up to 20% on that first time subscribe and save. So if I have an option on deal, coupon, or subscribe and save offer, I'm going subscribe and save offer if it applies. I just think it's you know,
Hmm.
5 times your customer lifetime value and all of that, you know. So if you can get customers into your subscribe and save funnel, that's incredible. And that, so that's the one I'll lead with if it's a consumable. And then afterwards, like I'm open to test whatever. It's the way I
Yep.
lean.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. All right, very good. Let's jump on to our next article here. And by the way, anybody out there watching, if you want to throw comments in, we'll bring them into the show, either related to the news or related to something else. That's fine. Washington to tax digital ads and tech services. Starting October 1st, Washington State expanded its sales tax and business and occupation tax to cover digital advertising, custom website development, IT services, live presentations, and temporary staffing. Live presentations, that's interesting. This includes online ad services like search engine marketing, campaign management, and traffic monitoring, which were previously exempt. For Amazon sellers, this could raise the cost of running ads, developing websites, and using tech services if they operate in or purchase services tied to Washington. Compliance will become more complex and sellers should track expenses carefully, consider tax automation tools, and monitor legal challenges to the law as companies like Comcast are already contesting it. And of course, as we know, if one state starts doing this, often there's a snowball effect, or companies will just choose to tax everybody because it's easier. So to me, this is a pretty big one and definitely not a good thing. But what are
Well,
your
isn't
thoughts, Andy?
isn't Amazon in Seattle, right? So, you know,
They
the
are,
law
yes.
could be simply we can't apply it everywhere, but we can apply it to the state that they're headquartered in and, you know, apply it that way. The live presentation makes me think about live selling, like
Hmm.
TikTok Shop Live or Amazon Live.
Oh, yeah, that's probably what they're talking about.
That's probably what they're talking about. The live presentation part. It just
Hmm.
sounds funny. But it sounds like they are trying to tax Amazon advertising. You know, that's, I mean, Comcast is a drop in the bucket compared to Amazon advertising to me. You know, so who are they going after? I don't think it's just the sellers that happen to be in Washington State. So what will that permeate to? Because if Amazon's getting taxed, we're going to be the ones to fill it, right? Like
Yep,
we will
for sure.
getting taxed, they're going to pass it on to us one way or another.
Yeah, it's and it's also interesting too, and it doesn't say in the summary here, so I'd have to look at the bill more. But I wonder, who exactly are they taxing? Would they be taxing like me when I run the ads, or are they taxing Amazon based on the total revenue that they take in from ads? I would have to lean towards it being an individual tax on each person who's running the ad. So if I'm based over here in South Carolina, would I get taxed on my ads just because Amazon
How
is
do we
based in
and on Amazon we can't choose where we run them, right? So I can't
Mhm.
say that I'm not running a sponsored product ad in Washington to a customer.
Yeah.
So, you know, would it be on the orders that happen in that state and tracking them to like running an ad and then they purchase in that state? Kind of like tax nexus or, you know, however
Yeah.
that applies. Um, Definitely food for thought. I don't have an answer on that. You know, I don't know what that would look like.
Yeah, to me, a lot of this is to me is taxation without representation, right? Like for example, I get income tax bills from California because I sell products into the state, but
Same.
I don't have any power to elect someone to represent me there. So they're taxing me and I have zero representation. So to me, it's unconstitutional and illegal what they're doing. But so far, nobody's challenged them on it that I know of. But it sounds like this one's definitely going to be challenged because it's making a lot of waves out there, and Amazon is not going to just roll over on it. I don't.
No, like what you just said, taxation without representation is like what this country was founded on in regards
Mhm.
to like, our independence. And I take a little pride in that as um, family has all those badges and certificates of family fighting in those wars.
Mm.
But as freedom gets taken away from us every a little bit more each year, truly
Yep.
it does. At what point is it like this is a problem? And the problem is that like it just costs so much money. You almost have to be a big player to then go fight against it. But I
Mhm.
mean, I'm a small company and I'm getting taxed in California. I have quite a few clients from California,
Mhm.
so I'm specifically, and they went back years on me. It wasn't like, so they passed some new law, but they went retroactively, went back and like, was tracking certain things. So I've been getting bills from California for the last few years in regards to tax. And I just didn't think about it as like, look, I'm not allowed to vote there. So,
Mhm.
that is a big deal and a perspective I hadn't seen before. I just, we'll see. I remember when the tax nexus laws came out, and me and my business partner at the time, I own the company by myself now, but I had a partner at the time, and we try to do everything the right way, So we were like legitimately, we almost stopping sellers at the time with some of the brands we were building because we were just like filing in all of these states is like
Yeah.
insanity.
It was insane for a while. Yep.
Till everyone figured out what to do, kind of like with COVID, right? Everyone's just like, what do we do? Like with the tax nexus laws, it was like, how do we officially do this before there was software to track everything? And we were literally filing in every state that we had sales, and it was getting crazy. So who knows how this will be before it settles down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. That's for sure. And I've already seen that there's several legal challenges. In the article, they talk about Comcast, but I believe there was some, like an attorney general that was filing a lawsuit as well that I seen, and a couple others. So it's there's definitely going to be a lot of pushback on it for sure.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure Amazon's not going to just say, yeah, sure, we'll pay. For every, if it's in Seattle, it's all originating there, to my knowledge. So, I don't consider myself a tech service or a digital ad service, like as a marketplace agency, but we do a level of that. So like, what does it come down to? Is it actually like being the seller? Is it being the service provider? Or is it, in other ad types, like you buy real estate, so to speak, like, if you're doing TV, you're buying positioning on Amazon.
yeah,
It's just quite a bit different.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I found this one other article here, which was kind of an opinion piece from the Washington Policy Center, which
Okay.
I don't know much about them, but the summary on that just says Washington State's new digital advertising tax expands sales tax to nearly all online advertising services while sparing traditional media, creating an uneven playing field. Comcast has already sued, arguing the law violates the federal Internet Tax Freedom Act. So that's interesting that they exempted traditional media. So I would assume that's like newspapers and things like that, so that they don't have to pay taxes on their ad revenue, but Amazon does.
Mm. That sounds like a personal fight that we're going to get wrapped up in.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
policymakers there for sure.
Yeah, going to be interesting to watch. We've got a couple questions here in the chat that we can bring in. This one from Deepak. He's asking how are check-in times this time of year. I haven't seen too much of a delay yet in FBA, but AWD you can't get anything in currently at all. It's full. So how have you seen anything?
Well, I'm in the Midwest, but we have brands all over the world, obviously shipping into California, East Coast and West Coast. But I run a 3PL here in Kansas City, a full service warehouse and 3PL. And our check-in times have been outside of Prime Day in July, like they've been pretty smooth. And I like, at least here in Kansas City, we go to a big distribution hub in Illinois. That's like generally like our shipments go from KC here in Missouri to Illinois, and it's smooth. It's a big operation there. It's all about transit there. I feel like on the coast it's a little bit longer. I think there can be
Yeah.
a week to 2 weeks more, just depending on how much you're selling and how much you're shipping in. If you're shipping in LTL or if you're shipping in like UPS boxes, like case packs and stuff like that. Obviously, the case pack size UPS boxes are way faster, way faster. So
Yeah.
just depends on, with each brand, it's brand specific to what type of products they're selling, how far behind or ahead we are on inventory. Are we starting off, or are we just like supplementing stuff like that? So it's kind of a moving target. Good question, but it feels like a moving target to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're just getting into Q4, right? The busy season hasn't officially started yet. So, I mean, technically you're supposed to have your products in by now, according to Amazon's deadlines, but a lot of people are still going to be streaming stuff in here in October and even in November, and you're still going to get checked in and received. Most likely, it's just not guaranteed, is what they say.
Let's talk AWD. Like, we have a few customers in AWD, not nearly as many as even some of my other agency owners that I talk with, or brands. What are your options if you have a product primarily in AWD and they're full?
Yeah, if you got product in there already, they're obviously refilling FBA for you, so that function's still going on. But right now, you just can't send anything into AWD, so you pretty much just have to send everything to FBA and pay the placement fee, or split it into that 5 or more shipments. That's really your only option, other than well, you probably want to use like a 3PL or something as well if you've got a large volume of stock. But right now, you just got to send everything into FBA, unfortunately.
So can you have a product, let's say you have a product in AWD right now. Let's say you have 5 pallets there, but it's not going to be enough for holiday, but they're not accepting more right
Yep.
now. Are you able to have an ASIN in AWD and also have it in FBA at the same time?
Yes. Yeah, that's not a problem, because the ASIN that's in FBA is just getting refilled from AWD. It's just essentially backup storage. So that one ASIN is connected to both FBA and AWD. So you can still send into FBA and everything, no problem. You just have to time it correctly and make sure you don't get a huge storage bill here in
Right.
Q4, because rates are going up here in 5 days to the high level. So
Yeah. So that, building my own brands, that was one of the reasons I launched our 3PL and warehouse was, there's so much profitability lost and found in warehousing and how you package and kitting and bundling and all of that. And are you running lean inventory? Are you, there was a time in the past where we'd ship whole containers and let them sit at Amazon because it was cheap enough to do so. It was cheap enough to send a whole container and sit there for 9 months selling through the product. It
yes,
really
yeah,
was. And now, you need to be 45 days at most, in my opinion, and just constantly sending in shipments and being efficient in that way, because the storage fees can just, sell through rate and all those things really start to hit you. If you don't think that all those metrics matter, then you're wrong.
yeah.
Like when it comes down to Amazon scoring your listing and giving you visibility and sell through and all of that, it comes down to, I think, the efficiency across the board, not just on the sell side. So.
Yeah, yeah, they're taking all of that into account now, especially with the moving into more and more the world of AI. It's going to really be taking all those metrics into account, because it's just going to be more easy to do so. It can take all of those metrics and come up with some kind of scoring system very quickly, and you don't necessarily have to create algorithms all the time for that stuff.
Right. Less
Yeah.
guesswork, and just knowing. I've always thought of it as like, you have 100 dials and it's just about trying to dial in the different areas, whether it's traffic or conversion. And I think inventory and inventory amounts has to do with traffic and conversion as much as images or having the right keywords or price point.
Yep. Yeah. AI is huge. I know, I still have lots of times where I'm working on something and I'll be like halfway through it and I'm like, wait a minute, why don't I just throw this into AI and I don't have to try to figure out these spreadsheet formulas and everything. It'll just do it all for me. And then, a minute later, I'm like, okay, I'm done.
I'm living and breathing the spreadsheet help, at least.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
not
The
my
same.
but I am using it for sure when it comes to data analysis and
Yeah.
stuff we used to have to do with concatenating Excels, and we don't have to do anymore. Um,
Yes, it's
feels like
big.
being calculated.
Merging two spreadsheets together is so much easier with AI versus trying to, figure it out in a spreadsheet.
For
So
sure.
much nicer for sure. All right, let's throw
Uh,
this.
I was doing
Okay.
just like speaking of AI and spreadsheets, I use Seller Board, Merchant
Mhm.
Spring, Trellis for advertising, a host of suites, Smart Scout for research. And I was pulling just like advertising by product, like, year to date and profitability year to date and inventory metrics year to date and dropping them into I use Claude, dropping them into my Claude AI and telling it to like, setting up the prompt is like, hey, I'm just doing a yearly review of my business and I want to check all the different areas, by ASIN, looking for opportunities, that top 10%, the bottom 10%, like kind of a SWOT analysis. And like, oh, it just did it all for me in regards to like, I had to have the software tech to pull the data in the way I wanted it. But once I put it in there and asked it the right questions, it was pretty comprehensive. So for any sellers out there that are trying to figure out where to start, like maybe you just start with jumping your data in there and letting it tell you, pointing out
Mhm.
some insights for you.
Yeah, and one thing I've kind of learned too when you're trying to have it analyze data for you, not necessarily, like merging spreadsheets or something. With that, you have to be very specific. But if you want it to give you opinions and thoughts on the data, you want to try your best not to lead it in any direction, because otherwise it will try to make you happy and provide what you're looking for. But if you try just stay general and say, give me as much information about this data that could help my business as possible, and hit enter and see what it gives you, because that way it just goes broad and just finds anything that it can come up with, instead of kind of pigeonholing it into a
You're
specific way, which it will do.
you're so right. And it will try to make you happy by default, but if you word it the wrong way, it will try to point out mistakes, failures, areas too, which is also like, if you're guiding it, you can end up there too. So to get that neutral state is, you got to be careful.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's important to know what you're looking for and try not to lead it until you want to lead it in a certain direction. But if you just want general like business advice, keep it general, and then it does a really good job at analyzing it and just spitting back a bunch of data. And then you can kind of start honing in on things.
Yeah, how you word it, how you communicate. Everyone's talking about AI, and it's in every chat, it's in every group, it's in every
Yep.
Facebook group, it's in every combo. And too much of a good thing is still too much, can make it a bad thing, of course, just because you get burnt out and you can't even hear. But there is like, um, there's a lot of, one thing I like about it is that it is, at least for the business minded people that are using AI, is, it is like forcing us to communicate clearly and
Hmm.
be articulate with what we're saying, and be very like, less loose. And so I
Yeah.
think as a general whole across society that's using AI, it's like forcing people to communicate better, which I think is a
Yeah.
win for all of us.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's an element to it that, for its downsides and whatever, there's an element to it around communication that I just like what it's bringing out of people. Those prompts have to be, you can't be vague. You can't say, I don't know, maybe I'll be there on Friday at 4, like giving people maybes. That doesn't work with the AI. You have to be
Yeah.
specific and communicate clear and not be leading or not be misleading, or, just like you were talking about, you have to be very intentional. And I like that.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing new world, that's for sure. And eventually the AI will just become the computing platform that we're working on top of.
Yeah.
Instead of working on a Windows computer or a Mac computer, it still will probably be there, but you'll really be working on ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or whatever the case may be. Whatever the winner ends up being, there's going to be one dominant one and then a bunch of smaller ones, like most tech things, most likely. But eventually, I think that it'll just become like the operating system that we're working on
We don't
top
even
of.
refer to them as two separate things,
Yeah.
like we don't say smartphone anymore. We just say phone. Like, I
Yep.
know it's we know what that is, but it used to be a term because we had to separate between the two things. And now it's just like, for the most part, you just assume phone and you assume it's a smartphone, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I know I get frustrated with Alexa now because you ask it, say something, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't understand. It's like, how do you not have like this AI comprehension yet? It's kind of crazy, but it's a little frustrating when you don't have that ability to just ask anything and get the
Get
correct
answers,
answer back.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right, another question here from Deepak that I thought was a good one. So Brandon Young says that Amazon A9 penalizes if I repeat a keyword more than 2 times. Can I use something like large pot for women, adult pot for women with kids, all separately? And you are correct that it's not necessarily only penalizing, it actually won't let you save the listing now if you have too many words repeated. I believe it's 3 times you can say the same word and then it won't let you save it any longer in the GUI anyways.
Well, here's the
Um,
thing. I think the answer, Deepak, is one, Brandon Young, one of the good ones, right?
mhm,
So glad his name's being brought up. I also wish that my name is brought up in some other people's podcasts. That then you'll know you made it, you know. So
yes.
shout out to Brandon. But I think it's less about like the penalizing or it not letting it happen, Deepak, and instead thinking that you're missing an opportunity because by repeating the word, you know, you're taking a valuable real estate and you're only hitting it with one approach because you're really thinking about you're thinking of it too logically and like in regards
Mhm,
to, okay, I want this exact search phrase and like that's the A9. But what's happening now with Rufus and is it Cosmo,
mhm.
um
Yep.
is it's thinking more like not theoretical, but like, you know, what are you trying to say? What is this product and who it's for? You know, so it's not just about describing it 5 different ways. It's really about telling a story about the product, who it's for, what point it solves. Like, you know, so saying like, you know, it's deeper and wider than the competition, a deeper and wider pot, you know, instead of just saying pot for women, pot for women, pot for
Yeah.
women. You know, you're trying to find different ways to articulate that and communicate that better. So I think the main downside that you should think about with this is it's just not the best way to get the most views.
Yeah.
So think less about and there's a reason that if you understand Amazon's reasoning behind it, then you'll always end up in the best spot is what I think about. So like, why would Amazon care about this? What would be best for their search algorithm? And instead of trying to hack that, instead lean into the rules a little bit is what I would say. And contextually, like, think about how you can describe that without just calling it, you know, a pot for women. Because in
Mhm.
this example, I'm thinking about a cooking pot. Probably, most likely, this is a cooking pot we're talking about, and pots are not for men or women. In at least in our culture here in the West, like, you know, pots are for whoever. So there's
Mhm.
not even really like a search phrase around it being a pot for a woman. Is there something about it that makes it just for women only? That it's pink or that
Yeah.
it's like, you know, something like that? No, I would say no. So the pot for women is kind of like irrelevant. And instead, it's really about it being a large pot or a kitchen pot or a stainless steel, or that it can be dishwasher safe, or that it's used in cooking certain foods or things like that. So a bit of a long answer, but I just had a little fun with that one because I think it's like that's where it's changing from just the traditional direct response keyword stuffing that we've done in the past. And now it's changing to be better, more flowy, more situational, and you know, explaining the environment and what it's used for versus just like hitting those keywords.
Yeah, we're moving into the AI world as we were just talking about. And so moving past the days where you have to have the exact match keyword in your title for the AI to be able to find you in the and display you in the search results. So yeah, doing this kind of thing a couple of years ago was what you had to do to show up and rank at the top for those keywords. Because if you had the exact match keyword, you're more likely to rank at the top. But now moving into the AI world, it's definitely not necessary to just repeat yourself and try to get those exact matches. you still want to kind of get those keywords in there in a nice way that looks good so that the AI can pick up on those. But yeah, you definitely don't have to have the exact match anymore.
I mean, what's the better customer experience?
Yep.
I mean, I think it's a yes, it's a black and white answer. And keyword stuffing is not the best customer experience. It's really
Yep.
not. The information's hidden. I have to read stuff that doesn't flow right. The English isn't great because I'm just like trying to fit in these exact searches in a way. 70% of searches are now on the phone. We were just talking about smartphones, 70%. So those long, specifically the long keyword stuffing type of titles and descriptions show up much worse on a phone. It takes up a lot more page. And so if you're just Amazon is obsessed with customer experience, in my opinion,
Mhm.
and that trust. And so if you always keep that in mind, like if you always keep that as like at the forefront, what's the best customer experience? In addition to the science that goes behind like how we rank products and whatever. But if you think about the customer experience, what's the best customer experience? Why would I go against that? I'm going to lean into that.
Mhm.
And I think that's where like playing by the rules can pay off when you're thinking about that, because that's what Amazon cares about. So that's what I care about.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we talked about in previous episodes as well, you know, building your listing so that it's almost like a Q&A session, you know, in your bullets, in your description, your A plus, your question and answer section as well, trying to build that out and answering questions that the customer might ask Rufus or ChatGPT or something like that. Because if you have in there, you know, what makes this the best pot for women, and then you answer the question, and Rufus will be able to pick up on that if someone does happen to ask the question, you know, what's the best pot for my grandmother that's decorative or something like that, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And the FAQ, as well as the images matching what you're saying in the content, you know. So,
Yep.
you know, an example I had was a brand came to me, it was a beauty brand for like eczema. And, you know, if you have eczema, what are you feeling? You're feeling insecure. You're feeling maybe that people are perceiving you as dirty. You're perceiving like, you know, that you don't feel beautiful. Maybe you don't want to go on that date night, you know, because you're having an outbreak or whatever. And so you're feeling this type of way. First of all, you're not feeling confident. And then you're getting a product to try to help you with that. You're in need, like it's like a response buy because you're trying to solve a problem. And so then the facts come in. So first it's like, what is the pain point? Well, the pain point is I feel ugly. I feel insecure. I feel like blemished at the very
Yep.
least. And then after that is like, I'm looking for a solution. And like, if, you know, okay, so why this solution? Okay, because it has these ingredients that are all natural. And then, oh, look, here's some before and afters and some user testimonials about like how it worked for them. And it's 4.5 stars. And it's like, okay, it worked for a lot of people. And then like, you know, the FAQs and the reasoning comes in after they feel like this can help them not feel insecure. Like that's
Mhm.
what selling is it's not really keyword stuffing. And so if you have, I brought that example up because the brand came to me and they had spent a whole bunch of money on this new branding package and the visuals looked beautiful, like
Mhm.
bright colors, pretty models, good photo shoots, good locations, but it was a beautiful woman and daughter. And we're selling a product to people that are feeling ugly at the time or insecure at the time.
Mhm.
So showing beautiful, perfect skin when we're still trying to sell, like, well, that's not what eczema looks like, you
Yeah.
know. And that was the problem, is they went from almost this like not iPhone quality branding and pictures, but like more authentic, where it was actually showing like the skin issues and the dry skin and the eczema and that kind of look that honestly makes you feel a little bit like, it's like, you know, seeing a sore or whatever. But then you're taking them through that journey of like, this is where you are, relate with you here, and we'll take you there. And so even the Rufus is taking into mind, if you're trying to sell a product for women and you have men in the photo, you're trying to sell a picture for elderly women and you have young women in the picture, it's taking those things and saying all this stuff is not relevant. So it's really
Mhm.
about just like positioning and presenting and communicating with authenticity throughout the images, throughout the copy, throughout everything. And they're saying, oh wow, this is very relevant to what they're selling. Let's show that. And
Yep.
it's not as sciencey as it was before, is how I
Yeah.
feel. Like it's not as
Which is
dangerous.
good. I think, you know, before we did these things, not because we really wanted to, but because you had to be able to show up, and not because it actually helped your customer in any way. and now we're moving past that to a point where we can just make informative, nice listings that sell your product. And AI should be smart enough to be able to recommend the products that are the best for the customer.
I agree. And Todd, just to like a fun one that maybe we can refer back to in a year or two is, I think maybe Amazon's slower than website or whatever, but I think very soon we'll have personalized shopping,
Mhm.
similar to like Hulu or some of the streaming services, Spotify, where whenever I go to look at a product, I'm going to see an avatar that looks like me and moves like me.
Sure.
And so I'm 6'3" and a taller, lean guy, that's like 40, and I have some tattoos. And I'm not saying that every model I see on a clothing item is going to look exactly like me, but it's a lot better than having a shorter guy that's 5'4" and thick
Mm.
chested, and that's not me. So if I'm looking at those items, I'm not going to relate to that. And a better experience, a better probably a higher conversion rate would be when I'm looking at a grill and I'm looking in the lifestyle photos, I see a family that looks like me.
Mhm.
And not to make that like, in paid media, it was always like representation, trying to get representation for everybody. I think that's going to come to e-commerce way faster than it ever did to TV or the movies or anything else like that. And it will be like, if you have those settings turned on, whenever you get online and go shopping, I think it will become more and more popular to see, like, it's almost like A/B testing, but in real time to everybody, based on your settings.
Yeah, that's a cool concept to think about. Um, I don't know if it would be a little creepy or not, depending on how it's implemented. If I'm logging on and
Don't
I'm
you feel that way
seeing,
when you like see a Facebook ad or something, like after you're talking about it with your friends, it's a little creepy, like that they're just
yeah,
now offering you an ad, but I'm also like, I did just need those shoes. Like,
yeah,
like there's an element of it of being like, I also hate getting the Cialis commercial when I'm watching football games. Like, and I don't
yeah,
have any issues. Like, why am I watching this HIV or Cialis or birth control advertisement that has nothing to do with me? There's
yeah,
also a level of
yeah.
friction there too, you know?
Yeah. I guess what I was thinking more is like I go into Amazon and I'm looking for a grill, and I see all the lifestyle photos are of like a white guy and standing next to the grill and everything. And then my wife logs on and she's searching and everything's like a Latino woman on there. Will that be kind of weird for people, or you might not even notice it? It'll just kind of blend in over after a while, but
I think it will be where you can modify what those settings are, and you can like almost like on a scale of like, okay, 100% I want it to look like me, or it could be like 50-50, or you can choose diverse, or say like original or random or whatever it is. But
Mhm.
I think it will be a scale similar to like video games and or whatever, and creating an avatar,
Mhm.
and you can create an avatar that looks like you, or you can be like, I want to be a blue person and look like a Smurf,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a level of personalization though that you can set up to be like, I want to see this shirt on a tall model that looks like me, or this gym thing on a tall guy. And it just get more personalized like that, where it's not
Yeah.
only looking at your zip code and your income, but instead like the visuals. As the AI like really starts to dominate, I think it can implement those. I just saw Sora 2 come out, which is the AI video gen, and you can place yourself in these scenarios and videos very easily now, where it's like Andrew is in the scenario of the video versus like an AI avatar. So it's
Mhm.
now placing you with a short clip now in videos that already exist, which is
Yep.
mind blowing to
Yep.
me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, Amazon's getting all the data, so they know what all you buy. They could probably connect you to your social media and find out what you look like and what you like on there. They've got Roomba in your house, so they know how big your house is. They've got Alexa, so they know what music you like. And yeah, they could just completely create avatars that represent your life basically and input them into the graphics of the products you're looking at.
I mean, imagine Netflix without personalization. Imagine Spotify
Mm.
without personalization. We're so used to it now, but it used to be a completely different. I know a lot of people that would pay, even if Netflix was free, they would pay just to have the personalization of it, picking shows for them and giving recommendations and things like that. So I think that has a lot of value, and you could turn it off, or you could have it on. I think that's kind of the phase, but I
Yeah.
think it'd be very, very interesting and make shopping a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. It'll definitely be improve the experience for sure. Some people get freaked out about the data that they have, I'm sure, but at this point in the world, unfortunately, everybody's got all of your data from somewhere. So
Yeah, imagine
it's
going
kind
to
of
every
the way of the
website
world.
with no cookies every single time. Like, it gets exhausting. Even if
Yeah,
you don't want these websites tracking you, clearing your cache is like a huge pain in the butt,
yeah.
to
I just
reset.
had to do it yesterday because a Google Sheet kept giving me an error when I try to load it. So it's like, clear your cookies. I'm like, no, I don't want to clear my
The
cookies.
pain in the neck, right? So there's a
Yes.
sacrifice in giving up some of that data, that information in exchange for convenience. We were
Yep.
talking about politics earlier, and I think it's very similar. It's like, look, what am I giving up for this exchange, for
Yep.
representation or for freedoms? And same thing with shopping and whatever. I think it's always just a give and take.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. All right, Andrew. Well, we are over the top of the hour already, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. But this has been a great conversation with you. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me on, and hopefully this is one we can look back in a year or so and hear some of our comments, true or false. And maybe we'll go back through it and say, hey, when we were predicting kind of the times, how's it look today based on some
Yeah.
of those conversations. I think this could be a fun one. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Dana and I were talking about the same thing, throwing the transcripts of all of our past episodes into AI and tell it to give us our predictions and what the result was to see how accurate we were. So I might have to try that out.
Gary Vee's been doing it a long time, and I
Yeah,
love that when he shows himself like saying something 10 years ago and sticking to it today. I think that's a
yeah,
really cool look. So if you do
for sure.
that, tag me so I can see.
Will do. All right. Appreciate it, Andrew, and everybody out there watching. Have an awesome Columbus Day weekend, a long one this weekend. So see you next Friday for another.